Morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World Collective Energy Share. So, yeah, we had a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, but we
That's
figured
what
it out.
happens when you don't take all your technology with you.
Yeah, it was so much easier when we were in the same room. I'm just saying.
I know. Everything flowed.
So, let's see. So, yesterday, you and I spoke, and we sort of had a little bit of discussion where to start for today. It's funny because weeks go by and so much has changed in just a week, right, since the last time we did this. So where we started yesterday was about, and I'm going to read off some notes and stuff, and you can start because I know this came from insights that you were getting. Um, Basically, something around the beliefs that to have power is to have others that are not, or something like that. It was like about a whole duality about power and whatever the opposite would be, non-power.
Well, it kind of stems from a belief that, for me to have abundance money, someone else can't have it. So that it's based on a limited resources, and that there's a set amount of money, and that if I have some, then that means others don't have any or have less. So when I was looking, I had read something about, oh gosh, I don't even know what triggered it, but feeling that if I have power, that meant that others had to be powerless because my power was based on other people's lack of power.
Right.
And so that if everyone was powerful, it meant nothing.
Okay.
And then judgment sets in about, well, why would I want power if that means it disempowers others? Because I want to be a good person. And I mean, that whole thing just twists it up, because then it's that, well, to be a good person, that means you wouldn't wish someone else to be powerless.
Right. Well, that's still a very dual.
Right. Well, and it's all,
Right.
the problem, if you will, is all because of duality.
Right. Well, and it's also like what we started talking about yesterday, but we were also talking about last week, which was a lot of this stuff has to do with our beliefs and definitions around our personal definitions around like what is power? Like what is power to you and what is power to me? Two different things, right?
Right. Right.
And
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 what do we believe the word power means?
right. So what is it? So like, all right, so what is it then that you feel like that you believe besides that you have to take power away from other people?
Well, it's not even taking it away from other people. It's more that simply power is based on a comparison of this to this. And so if I'm powerful, that means someone's less powerful or not as powerful or powerless. And so it's all based on judgment, which I guess, technically the way we define power is just like light and dark. One is defined in terms of lack of the other.
So I was thinking about that, and the way I sort of see it is it reminds me of when we were back in Peru last year, right? And we were at Machu Picchu, and we had that whole meditation with the hole in the earth, but then it was all connected to all of these different places. And what I saw was like these big control rooms and the power going up, right? So that's how I look at it. So it's interesting. I was looking at it going, okay, so when you look at it that way, it's not having or not having power. It's not against anybody else. It's just
Right.
being online, right? So that power is coming back into remembrance, right? So it's that shift of probably crumbs, I guess, of old beliefs around having power over somebody
Right. Right.
or somebody having power
Well,
over you.
or even stepping into your power, which is simply plugging in. But in dealing with other people, it turns into that comparison and that duality of why do you have this and I don't?
Right. Well, the answer is always you do have this. You just haven't remembered it yet. I mean, that's what I
Right.
always say.
Right. No, I agree.
I guess part of what I was thinking about when we were talking yesterday was the idea of for us to step into power, right, which can equate to, you know, becoming, being prominent or whatever it is. And I think that's changed. Well, I know that's changing too. But the idea of becoming prominent or whatever means that it depends on other people being powerless for you to be prominent in that kind of situation because then you are stepping in your power. And that would be like the gauge of success, right? All right, because I'm writing a book now, right? So you're writing a book and you're depending on other people for not having remembered everything that I write in the book so that they find value in what I write, right?
Right.
So that's power and a non-power. And if that didn't happen, but so then so I was following this bouncing ball on that this morning. And I was just like, okay, so what happens then? I mean, that's great. So if everybody remembered everything, then we wouldn't have any need for books, right? We wouldn't have any need for classes. We wouldn't have any need for any of those comparisons. But
We wouldn't have
what,
any need.
right. And so then I was like, okay, so what's the point of like looking at this? And it was like, well, part of it, and it was great because Kim Turner posted a great thing this morning that was really related to what came to me in the shower, which was the point is not to be attached to your idea of what power is. And it's the attachment,
Exactly.
and it's the attachment to it. Because so what happens is, and that's actually something that's been under sort of like under surveillance with me lately, I've been observing within myself and others around me is so what happens tomorrow, and we've been talking about this, but this puts it in a different frame of mind, which is so what happens tomorrow if everybody remembers and there's no need for practices like this, or there's no need for a book, or there's no need for energy healing or whatever because everybody's in remembrance. Well, then we move on to something else, right?
Right.
So
Well,
really, go
and
ahead.
what do you believe is left when all that need falls away of you? Because if you've defined yourself totally on fulfilling those needs, what's left?
Right. So then it's really truly back to letting go of the definitions and identities. And what I loved, let me see if I can find it. It was just really simple and I reposted it. Had to do with there's a difference between being connected and being attached,
Oh, I
right?
saw that.
And I thought it was just perfectly worded.
Well, one empowers you and one sucks the life out of you.
Yes, yes, exactly. Of course, I can't find it on my page right now, but yeah, it was basically those sentiments right there. And and the whole idea was, when we get attached to something. So if we look at that in the most basic sense, here, learn the difference between connection and attachment. Connection gives you power. Attachment sucks the life out of you, right?
Right.
And that applies in so many, of course, that was perfectly, posted right before we got, like pretty close before we got on. And I was like, yeah, that's
Right.
pretty much what we're talking about, even though it's not what we're talking about, but it is because it's all about that connecting. So, okay, so say you're a doctor, right? Let's put it into even more like 3D terms. Say you're a medical doctor, right? And you went through all this medical school and training, you've been doing it for years and blah, blah, blah. And you wake up one morning and nobody needs a doctor anymore.
Right.
And then the need for your value has completely gone out the window, which is part of what's going on in our world, right? It's becoming a much bigger um, issue. And I think that's what there's so many egos fighting against, right? Is for like their place at the table. Like, well, how
Right.
dare you listen to your own body? because then you won't need a doctor.
Right. Well, and the
How do
doctors even get upset with, well, don't Google this
right, right.
because you might bring me something that I'm not familiar with, and that would destroy my power in your eyes
And credibility,
or
right.
authority. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, well, yeah, it was like I saw this meme not too long ago. It was funny. It was like, okay, yeah, I appreciate you went to medical school. Yes, yes, doctor. I appreciate you went to medical school and that you might have actually taken a 2-day course on the ailment that I have lived with my entire life. You
Right.
know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But so the thing is, we have these things. And so if we look at the underlying score of what the ego is fighting against, right? Because ego is connected to identity, right? And that's what we have grown from, expounded on in this whole multiverse of duality. And so this is where we got really bigger than a bread box, because then I was like, that's where the bouncing ball went was, well, really, it's looking at how much we're attached to what we believe is, say, power today, right? What
Right.
is your power?
Right.
What is your power today? Well, if my power doesn't depend on other people,
That's
well, then
it.
it doesn't matter.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
yeah,
That's exactly it. And I think that that's where my feelings of this being so huge yesterday was that, if we're all of a sudden aligning with our authenticity to step into our power, you know, that definition of how we define our power is crucial.
right, right, because, right. And I think this is where we're going next is like there's going to be a series of looking at definitions because the definitions are what limit us when we hold this a certain definition. Well, it is a belief that something equals this, right?
Right.
So the thing is, okay, well, all right, I'm a psychologist, I'm a doctor, I'm a this, I've been doing energy healing, blah, 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 and this is my value, this is my power, right? But really, the power is not a thing, right? Power is not like it's not like an identity, right? So it's not I am this, I am smart, I am whatever, that's not. See, what that's part of the belief that we gotten lost in, which is the identity definition, we get attached to it and we believe that's our power. It's the whole Samson thing out of the Bible, right? They believe my
Right.
power comes from my hair, right? So therefore, if you cut off my hair, I lose all my power. But
There it is.
it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, no, that's how we are. Like, what happens if you've been doing something, say, for 40 years, and you wake up today and your guidance alone says, time to do something else.
Right. Right.
And so, like, I have, so I looked through that and it's like, wow, it's funny because I was pushed to do that a number of times in my life, in my adult life, especially. Um, and it's this constant, okay, so come to this complete fluidity, that complete fluidity of away from attachment and simply to connection. Like, okay, right now I connect with this. Right now, this is how my power manifests because of where everything around me is as well,
Right.
right? Oh, that
Yeah.
feels
And it's
really
got to
good.
be. That's such a and it. I hate to use the word need, but it flows best when it's in that dynamic flow, where as things change around you, it can also align.
Right,
Oh
right.
wow,
Yeah, you just
that's a
constantly adjust. It feels amazing.
it really does. I mean, to wrap your head around it, it's like, oh my God, how do I do this? How do I make this work? But that's part of it is it can't be a thought process.
No, it's simply presence.
Ah,
It's presence and that commitment to embodying all of who you are. And all of who you are is going to
right,
change in any given moment. Why? Because these bodies are created in duality and in a or duality or triality of creation around us that is evolving and changing, right? And to keep that symphony balanced. Oh, look, there's the yawn.
I know, I know.
But and to keep, I don't want to say balance, but to keep that symphony, fulfilled and moving along is for us to
Right,
change and shift what that note is that we embody, this part of us, right? In every given moment, right? So I might be called to be a pilot in 5 minutes. I don't know, like, and it sounds ridiculous. People could laugh at that, but honestly, it makes so much sense.
I mean, totally, totally, completely, yeah. And it addresses all the dynamic of it.
Yeah. Oh, that feels so good now. Yeah. Yeah. And so, the ego is what holds on to, well, and there's the other thing that I posted this weekend, which is funny. That I think I reposted from Kim. I reposted like 90% of my stuff from her. But, but it was like the ego will have you cry about at a door that there's nothing on the other side of, or whatever that was.
Right,
Basically
right,
it's like, okay, but that reality's gone. There's nothing to cry about. Like, this is the reality right this moment, and this is where we are. And so it's to embrace that. And so whatever that is, and I've talked about this a lot lately with people, is like, well, finding what your passion is, or how to express your passion is variable. What is like finding where the passion comes from, because then you can apply it to like 20 different things, or 100,
right,
it doesn't matter.
right, right.
And that starts to allow for that fluidity and flexibility, an allowance to really be that embodiment in any moment.
That's what living from a basis of wholeness versus duality provides
Yes.
support. Yeah.
Yep. So, well, and it's funny because, it sounds, well, and it sounds scary to the ego, right?
Oh
It,
yeah.
because the ego's like, well, what do you mean? I have to change. So what do you mean in 5 minutes I might have to change? Oh, there's my on what I'm doing. But what about, you know, um, okay, so like we're talking about careers and identity and what we do, but what if you wake up and tomorrow it's like, okay, it's time for you to leave this relationship. It's time for you to leave this house. It's time for you to leave this place. It's time for you to change blank and take the thing that is most near and dear to you, right? And be like, it was really interesting. I had this weird insight yesterday, and it came in like a maybe a 30-minute insight where I was doing something else. And you have all those stories, the movies, the shows, or whatever. We have somebody wake up one day and like something has changed in the time space continuum, and like either they don't exist, or say a loved one doesn't exist, or whatever, right? And then it's
Right.
how like part of the story is always how do they adjust, right? And
Right. Right.
it's usually a fight to get back to where they were,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? But what if, because I was like, wow, and I said something, I said, wow, wouldn't it be weird if I blinked and suddenly like I didn't have my kids,
Right.
right? And I'd have no recollection of having the kids. They just wouldn't be here. And it was such a weird, like, I don't even know where it came from. It was like this random thought. But that's really what happens. We have different lifetimes, right? Different timelines, and it doesn't matter if space and time don't really exist, then it's just a blink of an eye. And yeah, you're a different person. You're in a different place. You're different people. You're a different embodiment. You're a different gender. You're a different uh, species. You're a different
Right.
level. You're in a different level of consciousness. So what if we allowed that within the game of this duality so that we could continue to allow the balance that we have created the need for in the separation, right?
Mhm.
To evolve it so it gets whole, so for that coming back to wholeness and completion is to allow it to be and flow and evolve, but yet still have the consciousness of being connected to it, but not attached to it. right?
Right, right, exactly.
Well, there you go. I think we got it.
Absolutely.
So whatever it is so that we can allow ourselves to have an open heart and allow all possibility to be all of who we are and all of our power and to allow that definition to be open, right? As to what that is in this moment and to
Right.
flow with it and commit ourselves to allowing that shifting and changing and embodying in a way that's fun and enjoyable and love based and all that kind of stuff. Whole based.
Whole base. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
All right. I think we got it. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go. That was really powerful.
Yeah.
We're only out there for like 12 minutes, and I felt like it was an hour. I felt like an
Yeah.
hour meditation. I kept on seeing all these things changing. It was like, oh, okay. And I'd be having this conversation, be like, okay, you don't need this anymore. Oh, okay. And then it was like the more I did that, though, the more then I saw everything else around it. When it was like, that pure divine power. When
Right.
you are truly just online, right? You're not online on the internet. You know what I mean? Like online, like this in the ethers, in
Right.
remembrance. When you're just online and it doesn't depend on anybody else, then you are freeing everybody else around you to do the same for themselves.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I saw exactly that.
Yeah,
And,
me too.
and the, you look at the whole, economics and business world and everything. And I mean, it literally just, it's like, bouncy house that has no air. It all just collapses.
Yeah, yeah. And it wasn't a bad,
And
it was a great, it was freedom. It was like, oh, like,
right,
okay, I'm done with that.
right. Doesn't that feel better?
Oh, that feels great. Feels great. Oh, well, that was fabulous and efficient.
Right. Just the way we like it.
That's right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Sit in, and if you came in later on, go back and listen when we post the recording because it's a very simple tweak and yet a very powerful shift, really, because it just lets go of that dependency altogether of anybody
Right,
being dependent on you for you to be able to be powerful, right?
right.
Take it away from anybody else.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that, have a fabulous week and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for joining us. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avenoni.
see you next time on the Ascended World. Have a good one.